Come to understand the level of appreciation that people out there see us with. Come to understand the level of respect that people out there hold us in, Mr. Speaker, sir. Because when this was mooted out there, there's not one story that I have heard of people poo-pooing the idea and laughing at the prospect of leaving some of the most industrialized cities on planet Earth and coming to relocate in Barbados. What people grabbed at, sir, was an opportunity to relocate to a country that had wrestled COVID-19 down from almost triple digit at the time to zero. A country, sir, that had demonstrated that even in the midst of treating to COVID-19, we were able to reach out to the international cruise community and bring ships that had nothing to do with the itinerary called the Eastern Caribbean or a stop called Barbados to this place to repatriate thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people back to the Philippines, back to all parts of planet Earth, Mr. Speaker, sir, through the Bridgetown Seaport and the Grantley Adams International Airport, when from the United States in the north, right across Europe, had been closing their doors to cruise traffic. And people watched this little island from a distance and were amazed, not only that we had the gumption to do it, not only that we had the courage of our convictions to confront the criticism of people who said that we should not do it and that we could not do it, but that we did it and did it safely. And that for all of those thousands of people who were repatriated, Mr. Speaker, sir, we built out a system of protocols so that there's not a fellow who's working as a stakeholder in customs or in immigration or in port health who has come down with the COVID-19 disease, but we have been able to successfully do the repatriation. There's nowhere else in the world that can tell that story, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, when the offer was made to come to Barbados and see how this crisis can be managed, I think part of the reaction was, but that is a place that I would want to associate with, though, because there's a little rock, but they seem to understand what's going on and how to handle what is going on. And I think, Mr. Speaker, sir, that it is a wonderful story for us to be able to tell. Now, we have, I think, sir, to also be mindful of the fact that we are not seeking, as I've said before, but perhaps some would say too bluntly, to invite to Barbados' shores those people who might loosely be called the scum of the earth. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are inviting people who are able to establish that they do not have any prior conviction. All and sundry ain't gonna just show up, but you have to have your application scrubbed against the databases of places like Interpol, and that is a standard thing we do by way of advanced passenger information now on virtually anybody who's coming into Barbados. So we already know from the time you leave London and you're on board a British Airways flight here or Virgin Atlantic, we already know who you are. And there's some advanced knowledge that immigration has on you. And sir, the same principle applies. So that the naysayers and critics must not get themselves wrapped up in any nonsense about us not being able to police this properly, because the Interpol database, for example, is a database that will carry information on all those people at a level that we would deem to be of sufficient importance that we would know. And therefore enough said on that. Obviously, you have to come with a valid passport, but so too does any other tourist coming into the island. We recognize that you should not be here and become a ward on the state, so we are strongly encouraging that you secure or have in place your own health insurance. But if you do not have your health insurance, that is not an impediment, because we have a wealth of insurance companies here who are capable of providing the health insurance to you, and that gives the Barbadian businesses an opportunity to make a little bit more money. And again, I started by saying that in large measure, this is about stimulating economic activity in Barbados. Mr. Speaker, sir, when you are here for a period of 12 months or part thereof, and if we are fortunate enough that we have won the heart of the applicant and his family, and they stay here for another 12 months on top of the 12 months that they were here before, as they have the right to apply to do, then, Mr. Speaker, sir, what is the benefit? The benefit is that they got to live somewhere, first of all. Now, that place that they live at, sir, 9 times out of every 10 will not be owned by them, so somebody is going to get room, accommodation, money, or alternatively, rent, if it is that you're staying in a house. Mr. Speaker, sir, they have to eat somewhere. They are going to go down to the supermarket as any Barbadian would go to, and they will contribute to the Barbados economy by going into any one of the shops at the corner, as we have a society that is very safe to walk about in. And as we've seen tourists do for all the years, go and buy some Banks beer at a shop, Mr. Speaker, sir, and hold a line at a shop and go all about the communities and spend a little bit of currency, whether it is the pound sterling or the US dollar or the euro. The point is, Mr. Speaker, sir, they are contributing to economic activity by way of food and beverage in this place. But, Mr. Speaker, it goes further. They must traverse the island, because nobody's coming here just to sit down in a room or in a house for a year. Let us be real. So what is the other advantage? The advantage is that you will find some carriers renting. Maybe 1 or 2 might be purchased, Mr. Speaker, sir. If it ain't purchased, then the Minister of Public Works will make a lot of revenue come in by way of bus fares, Mr. Speaker, sir, and they will be going into the city of Bridgetown and into Holetown and into Oistins, and once again commingling with the people there, and part and parcel of all of that too is more economic activity. Mr. Speaker, sir, we all know that it will not only be men who come, but if the men come, and all of them, sir, from time to time, well, not all, most from time to time, will have a haircut. I look at you, sir, and I know that the cutting of hair is not something, I'm reminded that the cutting of hair is not something that we all do very regularly. But the fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the personal, the maintenance of the personal habits of the individuals, grooming, that's the word I'm looking for, is something that is going to happen, especially for the females. So again, the cosmetologists and so on, they stand to benefit too. And I'm belaboring it, Mr. Speaker, because I want people to understand that what we are really trying to say is that given the fact that we came to a point where 40% of the workforce in Barbados was at home, we came to that point. And we came to understand that businesses had closed down, had been shuttered, that there was pain in every street of every constituency represented by every member in this House, Mr. Speaker, sir. That there has to be a way of regenerating economic activity in this place. And that the more you have a demand, and the more that demand is fueled, Mr. Speaker, sir, the more there will be opportunities and responses from the private sector in particular to the creation of new business. So even when I say to you, sir, that there may be 5,000 people at our doorstep right now, and I have no way of knowing the accuracy of that figure, but I just throw it out there. But let's assume there are 5,000 people who express an interest in this, sir. Then it means that there are 5,000 people who can look for a little entertainment when the weekend comes, though. That's a fact. And where would they be finding their entertainment? It means that people who are involved, sir, in those things like putting on events and DJing and that type of stuff, sir, that gives them a lease on life that they do not now have when everything is on pause. And this is once again about accelerating the heartbeat of the economy of Barbados. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I think that the other point that has to be made is that we require a proof of income. Now, we have set the bar deliberately reasonably low. I am aware that there's a recent expression of a similar type of offer. And as the Prime Minister said, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. And they have chosen to pitch their offer more at the student community. Well, fair enough. That too is a market. We have sought to pitch our offer, Mr. Speaker, sir, at a level where at 50,000 US dollars is your income. We believe that it is a middle income level. Not, below that, we are not taking it on. but 50,000 and above. And why? Because one of the things we want people to be here to do is to be able to contribute, sir, by way of the maintenance of their lifestyle, but do it in Barbados. And they therefore have some money in their pocket, which might be called discretionary income. And that discretionary income, we then encourage to be part of the spend on island. It keeps the Minister of Culture happy. It keeps the people who are part of the cultural industries of Barbados happy. It keeps the Minister of Agriculture happy, and the people who are part of the agriculture industry in Barbados happy. Mr. Speaker, sir, it would be foolhardy to believe that 1,000 people could come here and spend a year and not one of them take sick or need to go to the doctor. And therefore, sir, the professionals in the medical health system are kept happy because there's a little bit more to go around. Mr. Speaker, sir, for the benefit of the Leader of the Opposition, it would be even more foolhardy to believe that even 500 came, that none of them would go to church when a Sunday come. And when they go to church, sir, and they leave a Canadian dollar in the collection or a US dollar, sir, it keeps the clergy. The tithing helps the clergy. Sir, and Mr. Speaker, sir, and that is what this is about. It is about the stimulation, sir, of activity in every sphere and in every sector of the Barbados economy at a time when, if we did not do this, we would all be sitting down and wondering, but if you got COVID there, and you have to go through all the testing and so on here, and then you're putting a man in quarantine as he get here, then who is going to want to come? Mr. Speaker, sir, I ask you the question. If you had to travel tomorrow on vacation and pick up your hard-earned year's savings to take your spouse and your offspring on a vacation, Mr. Speaker, sir, but you are told at the point of entry, well, you're here for 2 weeks, sir, but you're going to spend 2 weeks in quarantine. Would you be going anywhere? And the answer is no. Nobody's going to do that. However, if you're going to be spending a year and you don't have any problem with spending a period of time with 2 weeks in quarantine, well, that's a small thing. Get that behind you. And that, therefore, sir, gives us the opportunity of getting the footfall and the traffic, attracting the spend, while at the same time getting around the perceived hardship of...
You all remember has 2 more minutes.
And I had said I was going to speak very briefly, sir. And anyway, let me also then simply say, sir, that we were trying to get around the perceived hardship of asking an ordinary visitor to the island to quarantine and therefore ruin part of his or her vacation. I think, Mr. Speaker, sir, that once again, this demonstrates the creativity and certainly, sir, the passion that has been brought to this office by the illustrious Prime Minister of Barbados. I believe, Mr. Speaker, sir, that it would be true to say the Minister of Immigration would bear me out on this, that we were not just pushed and prodded, but urged in the most strenuous way to deliver on this in the shortest possible time. I believe, Mr. Speaker, sir, that we have come to understand that there is a determination, not only on the part of the Prime Minister, but I am pleased, sir, to be able to say I enjoy the companionship of a cabinet, the collegiality of a cabinet, where there is a weekly display of determination to find a way around the challenges that are presented by the age in which we live. This is unprecedented stuff, Mr. Speaker, sir. There have been difficult times. The Leader of the Opposition and I were in a cabinet which endured difficult times on occasion then. But this, sir, is unprecedented hardship that the world is facing. And I believe, sir, that there's been a mature and sensible and responsible response to that which has been put to confront us. And I want to urge upon this House, sir, its fullest support for this very important initiative. And I believe that it goes a long way to helping us to advance the interests of the tourism and hospitality sector in Barbados, while at the same time promoting the economic well-being of the country and the people that we are here to serve. I am obliged to you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for St. Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I too rise to support the bill before this honorable chamber at this time. It's been referred to as a number of things: the 12-month stamp, remote work bill. But Mr. Speaker, I want to begin, and I will begin, by reminding us, and I know that you are familiar with it, but reminding us that the wise man said in the 29th chapter of Proverbs, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I begin with that, Mr. Speaker, because this for me is a very serious debate. The bill is a very short bill, but the debate is a very serious one, because the debate and the bill that the debate is about represents, in my mind, vision, strategic vision, and leadership of the highest order. And I think in Barbados we are fortunate to have the kind of leadership that would come up with ideas like these and would be determined enough to bring it to this point. And I think we ought to be really cognizant and happy about having that kind of leadership in our country. I want to commend the Honourable Member for St. Michael Northeast for, as the Honourable Member for St. James Central just said, urging upon him and the Honourable Member for St. James North, but upon the Cabinet generally, the need to execute on these what are no great ideas. He also spoke to imitation being the best form of flattery. Because when leadership is demonstrated, when leadership is seen, then others want to, I think the Honourable Member would want to say copy. I may want to be a little bit more charitable and say emulate. Me being a little bit more charitable than he. Mr. Speaker, the Barbados economy is facing a challenge. While that is self-evident from the perspective of most people, it is a matter that needs to be restated. And I say that because there are still some who believe that we can live and eat without economic activity. I do not blame them for that. I see it as my duty, like we all see it as our duty, to continue to remind our people, including the few who may think that way, that we need economic activity. Whether that economic activity is in the form of reaping from a kitchen garden and selling from in front of your house, to resuscitating our tourism industry. Whatever form that rebuilding, whatever form that economic activity takes, it is necessary in whatever form. It is necessary for our sustenance. Now, because of where we are economically, there has been a significant impact on the workers of this country. The workers of this country represent the vast majority of any demographic segment in the country. And when workers are without work, as in fully laid off, and some of those persons who are laid off are receiving benefits from the National Insurance Scheme. But there are some others, even though we've tried to cast the net as far as is possible, there are others who are not receiving benefits from the National Insurance Scheme. When workers are not receiving income, they are in trouble. They are in trouble. And a country has then to do whatever it needs to do to make sure that those persons are at least able to eat. Or in Barbados, we would say, to keep body and soul together. No fancy stuff, but you have to survive. And so there is that additional pressure on the country as a whole. But there is a humanity to workers that I keep coming back to. When a person does not have a job, that person is deprived from the fulfillment that comes with working, contributing, earning, and being able to support those who depend on that worker. And I want to say but I don't know if this is sexist or not, but it doesn't really matter to me in this context. Because in my own experience as a member of parliament, I get the impression, so this is not scientific, but I get the impression that men suffer greatly when they're not able to support those who they believe are dependent upon them. And that is something that is debilitating for people. It robs people of their personhood, men of their manhood, women of their womanhood. It deprives people of the satisfaction that comes with working and contributing, earning, and being able to support their families. Particularly though, Mr. Speaker, the matter of the tourism industry is one that has to be of significant concern to the country. Because the tourism industry, the impact of the industry on the international reserves is more than the direct impact of the industry on the gross domestic product. Barbados's international reserves, in significant measure, depends on inflows from the tourism industry. And in spite of the fact that there are corresponding outflows built into our structure of tourism, the net impact is significantly positive when compared to other sectors in this country. So that when there is a reduction or an almost elimination of our tourism industry, there is the corresponding effect on our international reserves. I've said before, and I repeat a lot of stuff that is some people believe is too obvious for repeating. But Mr. Speaker, the cell phone that I have, the pens that I write with, the paper that I write on, are all imported. They cannot be paid for with Barbados dollars. International currency is needed to pay for the simplest of things. I used to include in the list Remy and other things, but somebody told me that I was being unfair to ladies and maybe a little bit biased and patriarchal. So I am not going there, but some very simple things that we sometimes take for granted have to be purchased using foreign currency. So that, Mr. Speaker, the state of the economy at this point, especially with tourism not being able to function the way tourism functions for us, impacts life in Barbados. And so there is need to do what is necessary to get tourism going again, but to get it going safely. At the level of the social partnership, we have determined and agreed as a partnership that as a country, we will be providing for safe people, safe work in a safe country. So we've adopted as our mantra, safe people doing safe work in a safe country. And we've adopted that mantra because our primary responsibility is to our people, so that our people must be safe. And in order to make our people safe, or to ensure that our people are as safe as possible, the Honourable Member for St. Michael Northeast mentioned this morning that we would have put significant resources into the building out of our health infrastructure. We had significant assistance we use our resources, that which we had, those that were given to us, to ensure that we created the facilities, obtained the equipment that would allow for the safety of our people. The matter of creating protocols and issuing directives, all the work done by the honorable member for the city, the one we used to, I think, sometimes used to joke and call him Colonel, but I think his work and his leadership in this matter of the COVID-19 pandemic reinforces the correctness of the attribution. Lieutenant Colonel, well, I can't call his name, but the honorable member for the city. And he has done sterling work to ensure that our people are safe. But in order for the people to remain safe, there has to be economic activity. And so we must move on to the provision of safe work. And I'm satisfied, Mr. Speaker, that the Ministry of Tourism, working with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Tourism and International Transport, working with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, also working with my ministry, the Ministry of Labor and Social Partnership Relations, has together put in place the kinds of protocols that will allow for the highest humanly possible state of safety that we are able to provide to keep our people safe while they do safe work. When I speak about vision and strategic leadership, I've spent over 2 decades in the tourism industry. And in that industry, we are fond of talking about length of stay. Because the greater the length of stay, and you'd have heard the Honorable Member of St. James Central refer to this on a number of occasions, the longer the length of stay, the higher the spend. I did a little calculation, and my brain might begin a little bit rusty because I had to go to my calculator. And I divided 365 by 10. I think it was only after I did the calculation that I realized I probably could have done it in my head. But that is the result of the kind of aging that the Honorable Member for St. James Central was just referring to. But when I divide 365 by 10, and I'm using 10 as an estimate for a decent length of stay, combining Europe and the UK with North America, one person spending a year in this country, is equivalent to between 30 and 40 shorter stay visitors. Now, there are a number of impacts of that. Anybody who works in the industry, and room attendants will tell you this, when you have, as a matter of fact, it is put this way, the shorter the stay, the harder the cleaning of the room. Because it seems as though people who stay just for a few days do not take as much care as persons who are staying longer. So the housekeeper, the room attendant, has to do more work. The business has to expend more in terms of cleaning supplies. And so those involved in the business at the level of the worker and also at the level of management and ownership always prefer longer stays. But Mr. Speaker, in a COVID-19 environment, it strikes me that I would prefer less people staying longer than more people staying shorter. Because if the risk of infection lies with people, then